How's it going there, folks? Welcome back here to a Tuesday night. It is about 10:42 p.m. here, local time in California. August 6, 2024. Latest activity, obviously some big-time movement out in the California area where we got, we got quite a bit of swarming going on here, specifically following this five-pointer from earlier today. Got, let's see how many earthquakes. Oops, I just messed that one up. Let me go back here and double-check. We got quite a bit of earthquake activity following that 5.3. Now, this earthquake originally coming in as a 5.7 earthquake. They downgraded it from a 5.7, 5.3 now to a 5.2 earthquake. Goodness. So that is quite the downgrade going on. But it was felt all over the place here in the California area, Southern California, Central California area. But it's a little concerning here because look how much aftershock activity is following this five-pointer. That's quite a bit here, and that's just the ones they may be counting out here. About 78 earthquakes in this sequence of earthquake activity there. Again, just outside of Bakersfield, California. Let me back out and show you guys exactly where this is at. North of Los Angeles here, north of the Garlock Fault shear zone. That's going to be this fault system right here, and it's north of where that big earthquake struck, the 7.5 back in let's see, one of these maps I thought I had keyed up here for history, but back in 1952 there was a 7.5 here along the Wheeler Ridge, which is right about here. That's a fault system on the north side here of the Tehachapi Mountains area, extreme southern end of the San Joaquin Valley. And it's on those little fracture zones here, the 1952 earthquake fractures where that 7.5 struck here. Interesting little sequence of activity taking place here. I just think in general this whole region is quite strained out here. Now the reason why I say we got to watch this and maybe be prepared possibly for some further movement is because of the sequence of earthquakes that are taking place out here. There's quite a bit. And it's only been about an hour? You guys remember back in 2019, right? Had a I think it was a 6.7 near Ridgecrest here on the Little Lake Fault, or the Airport Fault, one of these out here, 2019. That 6-pointer was followed by a whole bunch of aftershocks, hundreds of them, and then the following day we had a bigger earthquake out here. So anywhere there's a lot of strain built up, and obviously there's many faults out here well overdue, these sequence of swarms can turn into something bigger. That's not just hearsay. We've seen it back in 2019. That's just one quake there, or one event to mention. A 6-pointer, and then the next day a 7-pointer. So, it's questionable whether these could be aftershocks or maybe foreshocks. Who knows? Don't have any crystal ball. I was just looking here at Dr. Lucy Jones. Now, if you don't know her, she's the face of the earthquake activity in Southern California. Whenever there's an earthquake, you can bet Dr. Lucy Jones will jump on here. Okay, so here's what she's saying here in her latest post. Like any quake in SoCal, Southern California, there is a 5% chance that it will be followed by something bigger. That means a 95% chance that this is the largest. We have never found any characteristic that makes it a quake more likely to be a foreshock. But as I just mentioned, 2019, that 5% chance came up quite rapidly. And in areas that are well stressed and well overdue for some bigger earthquakes, well, it's possible that we could see something bigger out here. She's stating here as well, we are seeing a robust aftershock sequence with a 4.5 just 45 seconds after the main quake. That leads me to believe there that we're not done with the further large-scale adjustment. She's stating that she felt this quake there for a change. It is near the White Wolf Fault that produced a 7.5 back in 1952, but does not appear to be on that fault. So interesting. Definitely interesting activity taking place here. We didn't really see, let me look here in the past 7 days. In the past 7 days, there was only one earthquake here on the 4th at 7.5. That's interesting, right? 7.5 miles, 7.5 magnitude back in the 1950s. Goodness. Probably no no relation there between the two, but yeah, it's just kind of popped up out of the blue. And I'm not seeing anything out of the ordinary outside of this area in terms of any further strain somewhere else. It's just right now located outside of Bakersfield on the, looks like it's just off of the Willer Ridge Fault. Let's see, this is the White Wolf Fault zone, the one that she's talking about. But on a different, there's a couple different segments of it, I believe, out here. That 7.5 back in 1952 stirred up right in this area. And these are the fractures from that large earthquake. It just showed that, it just goes to show you how much pressure and strains out here against this plate boundary. That's the San Andreas Fault right here, the southern branch. Who knows? That's a little sketchy right there. This, obviously this fault system here is well overdue, and it's capable of producing an 8.1. So this 5-pointer that we've seen today, just a little friendly reminder that the big one is coming potentially sooner than later. Let's check out the Did You Feel It reports. It looks like some of these reports are coming in now. I'm sure a lot of people were just panicking at first. As soon as you get a big earthquake or any moderate earthquake there, nerves got to rattle down. Nerves rattle up a little bit, right? So you got to calm down, make sure everything's safe and family's good. So it took a little while for some of the stronger reports to come in, but they're coming in there. It looks like some decent shaking was felt there, very close there to the epicenter. Some strong shaking being reported. Obviously lighter across the area as you get away from this region, but goodness. Let's see here. And Bakersfield just sits, again, just to the north here of this area, so there's going to be quite a few folks. Los Angeles even felt that earthquake. That is crazy to think, it being felt so far away. When the Seismograph station came in there with that reading for that 5-pointer, we've seen it show up here at Mount St. Helens. Just a glimpse of the main signature, the P wave. So that's quite a distance there for the earthquake to show up hundreds of miles away like that. I'm really surprised that they downgraded this, because a lot of these stations here, if you look, it's weird though. Look at this. So they got 6 stations. They're only going with 6 stations that have 0 error reporting, but I can't access the contributed stations here to see what the magnitudes are stating. When you go to this other one with an error rating of about 0.34, here you can see the magnitudes that got picked up here. Some of these were stating that it was a 6-pointer, 6.07, 6.02. There's actually quite a bit of upper 5s and lower 6s that was being reported. So I find it weird. They downgraded it so much, and they're only utilizing a station, like 6 stations there. So definitely some odd stuff going on here. Here's the intensity once again, estimated intensity in terms of any potential magnitude right here. So obviously around the center, going to be felt pretty strongly here, up around 6.5. That's strong shaking being reported from that earthquake. Now here's their aftershock activity, right? And I think they put this out as well back in 2019 on the Ridgecrest earthquake sequence there. It says more earthquakes than usual, called aftershocks. Hopefully these are just aftershocks. Will continue to occur near the main shock. The main shock is the largest earthquake in a sequence or a series of earthquakes related to each other. Obviously, we've seen a bunch of 3s, so 88% chance of seeing an M3 plus or above, 39% chance for an M4, M5, another M5, 7% chance. I'm really surprised they have less than 1% for these magnitudes here, because you just never know. I mean, I would put it up there a little bit more. Some of these faults here, including this area, may be capable of producing a little bit stronger earthquake there in this area. So their forecast here is a little light. It's I don't know if they're just trying to keep nerves calm or what. In M7 or higher, there's a 1 in 2,000 chance within the next day. You got to remember these chances here decrease as time goes on. It only took, what, 1 day from the Ridgecrest activity. Remember the 6-pointer, and then the next day there was that 7-pointer. But there was hundreds of earthquakes following the original 6-pointer, which was all foreshocks. We had hundreds, I think maybe 1,000 or more foreshocks prior to the 7-pointer. M6 or higher, 1 in 200 chance. Within a week, 1 in 100. So the potential is there, right? Obviously, we'll keep an eye on this sequence of activity overnight. So let's look at the largest quake so far. We got a 5.2. Seconds later, less than a minute later, we've seen that 4.5 in the mix there. That's just weird. To see that such of a large magnitude following the main quake, supposedly, makes me think that there's still quite a bit of strain out here. A few minutes later, another 4.1, and then, as you can see, quite a bit of 3s stirring up out there as well. 2s, and I'm sure a lot of 1s as well. And these may not even cover all the smaller quakes below the 1 magnitude. I'm sure there's a lot more, because you got to remember, for every 2 magnitude, there's going to be a certain amount of 1s, and so on. So I'm sure there's a lot more shallower earthquake activity out there. Let me see if I can pull up the seismograph the recorded seismograph stations from that area. Let's see, I might be able to pick it up. So we'd be looking at about right here's the Garlock Fault shear zone, Wheeler Ridge, right about here, which is going to be this station here. Let's see what we got. Well, there's the 5-pointer, and the 4-pointer is the 4.5 is probably somewhere in the shadow of that big quake. A lot of other quakes in there as well, and I think this is behind a little bit here in terms of time. This looks like it's behind maybe let's see here, what do we got? 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock would be right here. So it looks like it actually went offline about 9:30 or so, almost immediately following all this activity. So that's a little weird. Let's check out maybe a different station here nearby. Let's see what's up. We can maybe check this one right here. Wow, this one, yikes. This one's not even properly tuned there, unless this is old, August 7th. That's weird, though. Yeah, I didn't even pick up the earthquake activity, but it looks like this is offline as well. So I'll have to watch this pretty closely, because we got earthquakes coming in back to back there right now. I'm betting there's probably a little bit better chance of than a 1% chance, or less than a 1% chance of seeing something bigger out here. That's a lot of aftershock activity. And the closest station I have to that area is going to be the Barrett station, and that's actually down in Southern California way. So I may have to look and see if I can find something in this area as far as a live seismograph station goes. But at least they're putting the earthquakes here on the map, because they are rolling in. Almost up to 100 earthquakes now following all this activity. And appreciate all the comments that came in here as far as where you were in the earthquake ShakeAlert system. I heard that it was functionable. A couple seconds following that alert is when the shaking kicked up here. So it looks like around the epicenter, though, there was just barely any time. 10 seconds out here, 20 seconds maybe further out around Delano and northward. Coalinga maybe up here around 30 seconds or so. I mean, if you think about it, that's good, though. This was the original. Check this out. The ShakeAlert system magnitude estimate showed a 6-pointer. It's weird. There's so many stations here reporting a 6-pointer, and they downgraded it and only went with a couple stations on the low side of a 5. Final was a 5.7 according to the ShakeAlert here. Bakersfield had, it looks like, a 2.2 second notice Tehachapi about 9.9 seconds. So it's interesting. Definitely good to know, you know. Actually, it's kind of surprising, right? It's like, okay, how big is this going to be? But they say expect light shaking or expect moderate shaking or strong shaking in that alert, you know. I was woken up one time about like 3 in the morning. I didn't feel any earthquake, but it was for a quake that happened up here in Northern California, but it woke me up. Even though I had my phone on silent, it came through there. And I guess it's good to have, right, to be notified on earthquake activity. So definitely, you know, a lot of shaking going on here for sure. I want to bring back up here the historical model here real quick and show you guys 4.5 and above. And I'm just going back to the year 1000. And we're going to draw a little area out here around the Bakersfield area, specifically in this region where we're seeing the earthquake activity today, which is going to be right about here. We're including part of the Garlock Fault Shear Zone, but that should be good right about there. And we'll take a look at the historical data out here and show you where that 7.5 occurred. The largest magnitude here, 7.5, 1952. That was a big one. That wasn't even on the San Andreas Fault. That was on these... Lucy Jones said the White Wolf Fault Zone, but that's more over here. Unless there's another segment that runs through here. This is there's a Willer Ridge Fault over here, so I don't know if she's got the information wrong or maybe it's wrong here on the map, but it's positioned further south of this area along close to the Willer Ridge Fault. And as you can see, you know, that's very close to today's activity, but not specifically on it. It's actually on the fractures from this stress, from this earthquake. You know, this whole area right here acts as a big spring. You got the North American plate here, which is where the earthquake activity occurred. This generally is moving to the southeast in relation to the Pacific plate here on the west side of this red line. That's the plate boundary, the San Andreas Fault. This whole section of land is moving off to the northwest, with Los Angeles slowly, surely moving up there towards the northwest area. So as that takes place, you can't help but wonder how much strain and pushing and shoving is going on here along this fault system between these two major plate boundaries. This is a different type of fault system compared to the typical north to south or northwest to southeast fault systems here that run parallel with the plate boundary. This here is a shear zone, and it acts as a giant spring here. And I think this is a lot more dangerous than people know of in terms of producing larger earthquake activity. So you got the potential for some larger scale activity on this Garlock Fault, which could trigger the San Andreas Fault here, because they pretty much run right into each other in the interchange here, and it acts as a huge spring. So we'll keep an eye on that area here overnight. If we start seeing hundreds of earthquakes, I mean, we're almost up to 100. Almost up to 100. We'll see how it goes overnight, if it starts to calm down or not. But next few hours, next 12 to 24 hours is pretty important here in watching potentially for some bigger quake activity in this area. So don't let your guard down. You know, the little less than 1% chance, they always say that because, you know, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what gives their reasoning for only a less than 1% chance that something bigger may happen out here. That didn't happen out here in Ridgecrest. It was, I think if anything, you know, they need to pay attention to the amount of earthquake aftershock sequences here in general. If it's not letting up, obviously a sign that maybe something bigger is about ready to kick up out here. All right, so further down south here, just some general small microquake activity out here. Well, let's look at Hawaii. Not a whole lot of change out here for now. A little bit of smaller earthquake activity around Mauna Loa. Kilauea volcano still seeing some earthquake activity. Let's go. Let's go check out Yellowstone. I bet you anything that showed up quite nicely as far as the seismograph station wave Okay, they're offline. Let's go back here to the previous day. There it is. So there's the 5.7 showing up there in Yellowstone National Park, Wyoming. So that's the signature of the 5.7, and it looks like you can actually see the 4-pointer in there as well. The 4.5 is the secondary quake, more visible on this one. It looks like 5.2 supposedly, and then a 4.5. So obviously the second wave looks a little bit smaller than the big one, than the first one, but yeah, they showed up quite nicely out here. Nothing really going on there at Yellowstone, pretty quiet, but I just wanted to show you guys what a moderate quake will look like there. Well, 1,500 is about 1,300 miles away, or maybe a little bit less. I can't remember exactly, but and then also it was picked up there at Mount St. Helens on the live one. I want to check out that real quick, see what it looks like on one of these seismograph stations here. We'll check up at the summit area. There's the S wave, the wavy squiggly line. There's the original P wave, it looks like, and then of course the surface waves follow that, the primary wave, and they can ring the bell or ring the earth like a bell for quite a while. Look at those wavy lines following that event. Maybe a couple smaller earthquakes out there around Mount St. Helens, but it's crazy to think that it can be picked up that far away. As far as the rest of the globe goes, there's not a whole lot of earthquake activity out here for now as far as major movement goes. So California obviously, kicking up pretty good here. 5.4, looks like the EMSC is reporting that. A little 4.8. This is a newer quake out here along the Caribbean plate, right about here. See that 4.8 right here on the globe. That's a newer quake. Looks like following this activity here in Southern Cal. With all this activity stirring up right now, as far as these aftershocks, or hopefully they're aftershocks, I'm gonna raise up the date here a little bit to add more time on here, because the Earthquake 3D program here will, with all these earthquakes coming in, will basically pull away from other quakes on the globe to show the amount of earthquake activity in this region. So I'm just adding a little bit more time to the Earthquake 3D globe, so we can still see the worldwide activity, but also look at the the amount of swarming that's going on out here in the California area right now. A lot of red ones out there, indicating in the last hour, 2301. It looks like we're getting an earthquake at least every minute, just about every minute or so. 95 earthquakes, and what was it? As soon as I started this update, there was about 85, I think. So maybe less than that, but yeah, we're almost up to 100 earthquakes already, folks. Best to be prepared and stay safe. Always got to have an earthquake plan, right? That's off of the main plate boundary, which is right here, and it's just waiting. It is just waiting for something to kick it into gear. I've been hearing about it for a long time. Oh, we're well overdue for the big one out here in Southern California, and that was many years ago. And now we're many years closer to the big one. Every second that goes by, it's just a matter of time. So, and again, this area, the fault boundary here, the plate boundary, the San Andreas Fault, the southern segment here, has not seen any major rupture here in over 300 years. It's capable of producing an 8.1 earthquake. I've covered this a lot in my videos, so. But I'm going to call it here for tonight, folks. Real quick at space weather, there's not a whole lot going on. Still got the flaring potential out here, although a little droppage here, about 20% chance for X-flare activity. M-flare at 75, C-flare around 99% chance or so. And we do have numerous sunspots, obviously, facing the Earth. And just generally watching this massive area over here for some further stronger flaring, but don't discredit these as well. They're smaller, but they're still somewhat complex here within their local magnetic structure. Stay safe out there, folks. We'll catch you guys back out here in the morning, Wednesday morning. Hopefully this is, again, just some some earthquake activity that will die down, but keep an eye on the multitude of quakes out here. I know a lot of the news networks will show 2.5 and above, and if that's the case, well, there's only 39 earthquakes in total. Not really. You got to include all the magnitudes here, because 2.5 and above is the 39 or so, but all magnitudes show what's really happening out here. 97, almost 100 earthquakes as we end this update video. Stay safe. We'll catch you guys back out here in the morning, folks.